Can you give us your
Sure.
origin story and connect us with kinda who you are and how you ended up writing the book and being in M&A space in general?
Sure, nothing but happy accidents. It's not by any sort of a plan, and that's what I always tell people. If you put a plan together, people always say, "I wanna do what you do," and I always wonder, what the hell's wrong with you? Why'd you wanna do this?" And in life, you gotta be open to different things that show up and other opportunities that show up, and sometimes it's not forecasted. I'm a big believer in something else will typically happen, and you have to be adept enough. Is this the right thing for me? So, I grew up in the Chicago area, from Chicago originally, live in the city now, spent most of my life here, a couple stops elsewhere, but most of my life in Chicago. Got out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't know what I was good at. Tried some sales jobs. I worked for a retailer. We were buying up mom and pop retail operations, primarily in the Southeast. So I spent a lot of time in Georgia and Alabama, South Carolina, a little bit in Florida, and came back to Chicago, got interested in startups and where do these business ideas come from and how do you put this together? So I worked for friends and family funded companies, angel funded, venture capital funded, kind of working my way up the food chain. And we worked at one point, I worked for an online source that was linking or supposedly linking entrepreneurs with venture capital. So I learned a lot about the financing game and venture capital and things like that. A couple years after that job ground to a halt, a friend of mine who had worked at the same company was working for a middle market investment banking firm. And so they needed somebody to execute transactions, someone who could make phone calls and think quickly and read balance sheets and understood business and so forth. So they couldn't find him, so they called me, and I very wisely turned down the investment banking job. I think 4 or 5 times, and the owner called me. It was Memorial Day weekend, and he said, "I'm not taking no for an answer." He caught me in a moment of weakness, and so I said, "Okay, fine, I'll go be an investment banker."